Alright friends, we're going to talk about notes 3.02. You are going to put these in your Algebra 1 folder. Make sure you're following along. I put the copy of each set of notes in your WAG for the week, so that is where you will find your own copy if you would like to do that. If you want to do it on scratch paper, that's also totally fine. Either way. Alright, so I am going to have you do the warm-ups on your own. Okay, so number 1 and number 2, that's going to be all you. I just want to get you started. When it gives you a set of coordinate points and it's asking for slope and the y-intercept, that's where we're using that y equals mx plus b, right? Where m is your slope and b is your y. Well, what's great about this type of problem is you can just put it into Desmos, okay? So I'm going to write that right there. We're going to use Desmos. So when you go to do this on your own in a minute, Desmos, okay? That's where you're going to hit the plus sign. You're going to put these in a table. Remember, all coordinate points are x, comma, y, x, comma, y, okay? So when you're putting them in the table, make sure you know which values are your x and which values are your y. So I'm going to show you. As you can see, I have already put it into my table. Okay, I put 4, 5, and -4, -7. Those are my only 2 points, so I stop right there. Then I put in this formula, okay? So you put it in Desmos, just like that. I can't put y equals mx plus b like that. I have to say y1 tilde mx1 plus b, and it will give you your m, or your slope, and it will give you your b. Okay, we talked about that a little bit last week, but that's exactly how you're going to solve that one. All right, on number 2, it's a little bit different. This time, it's probably been a minute since you've talked about this. I believe y'all have talked about it before in the 8th grade. If not, we're going to actually be talking about a different type of form. We're not going to use slope-intercept form. We're going to use point-slope form. The reason we're using point-slope form is because we are given not 2 sets of coordinates, but a set of coordinates and the slope. So based off what it gave us, we're going to use point-slope form. Point-slope form looks like this. You say y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? Now what you are changing here is you're going to be changing your y, which is great because it's right here, that's your y. You're going to be changing your m, or your slope, which is going to be super easy because it tells you it right here, there's your slope. Okay? Then you're going to be changing your x, which is super easy because it gives it to you right here. There's your slope. Your x. So now you just plug in. I say y minus, well, y was -9. Okay. Notice how I put minus and then the negative. Okay, that's important. Can't forget that negative. Is equal to the slope, 3, times x minus x, which is 1. Now, first, you're going to distribute, right? I'm going to take that 3, distribute it in here, distribute it in here. If you do it to, you have to do it to both, right? So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times -1 is -3. Okay, now notice here, I haven't done anything with this yet. You cannot subtract a negative, okay? It's not possible. We don't subtract negatives. So when you see minus and then a negative right next to each other, you're going to take it and you're going to turn it into a plus sign. So really this says y plus 9 equals 3x minus 3. Now y is not completely alone yet, so I'm going to move it. I'm going to say, and do the opposite operation to get rid of it. I'm going to say minus 9 here, minus 9 here. Why did I not put the minus 9 under that 3x? Because it's a variable, and variables and constants can't go together. And I really did most of this problem with you, so you're just going to do that last part for yourself. What's -3 and -9 together? And that I look at my y equals mx plus b over here, remember b is your y-intercept, so when it asks for the y-intercept, you're looking at whatever -3 and -9 are together, and that will be your final answer. Alright, remember, if I went too fast for you, you can change the playback speed. You can also rewind, you can pause, you can also send me an email and say, hey, Miss Bailey, I didn't get what you said here. Can you help me out? And I would love to help you. But let's start talking about a new concept. This week's new concept is going to be direct variation. One variable is always a constant variation of the other, okay? Direct variation is a relationship that can be written as K, so we're going to call variation K, is equal to, okay, now can you already kind of guess where we're going with this based off what that next little part says there? We're going to be using X and Y. So to find variation, you have to do Y divided by X. Okay, so Y over X. That's how we find K, or your variation. If there is direct variation between X and Y, then Y is proportional to X. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like in just a second. Remember, proportional does not mean equal, okay? We'll look at that in just a second. So, to find your variation, direct variation, you do Y over X. If there is direct variation, it is proportional. So, take a look at number 1 here. Let's put this into practice. What is the constant variation when X equals 512 and Y equals 128? Well, remember, to find it, we just use the formula K equals Y over X. So I'm going to take my Y, 128, and I'm going to divide it by X, which is 512. And you are going to use Desmos, right? 128 divided by 512. What is 128 divided by 512? It's going to be 0.25. So your direct variation, your K, is 0.25. That's your first answer. But there are 2 questions here, and this is where that proportional comes in. Okay, so it wants you to set up a proportion. A proportion is when you have 2 ratios side by side. So here's your first ratio. Okay, you set it up. You told me it was 128 over 512. And you told me that because the formula was, Y over X. So now it wants to know what happens when X is 64. Well, if I have X on the bottom, it's going to stay on the bottom. So let's see. If X is 64, I need to figure out what is Y. Well, some teachers like to call this the butterfly method. This is where you're just going to cross multiply and divide. So you take the 2 numbers you have across from each other and you multiply them. So you're going to say 128 times 64. You're going to put this into Desmos. 128 times 64, which I believe is 8,192. Okay, but I'm not done. This is cross multiply and then divide. So you divide it by that number that's left over down there. So you take that 8,192, divide by 512. Again, I don't expect you to know that off the top of your head. You can put that into Desmos, and you should get that it is 16. So when X is 64, Y is 16. Right? Easy peasy lemon parcheesi. You're going to try number 2 on your own here. Okay, test that one out. You're going to solve it very much like how we solved this first one here. Okay, next, let's take a look at number 3. Already, what is different about number 3 than the other 2? What can you tell is already changing about this? It's a real world problem. It is no longer, here's the numbers, solve. It's giving you a real life situation. How do you solve in this real life situation? Well, let's look at what it gives you. Okay, so change my highlighter color here. What you're going to do is the amount of water an electric dishwasher uses to wash dishes varies directly with the number of loads of dishes. The dishwasher uses 18 gallons of water to wash 4 loads of dishes. Okay, so we already know our X and our Y here, right? We know we're dealing with gallons of water and we're dealing with dishes. Okay, so that's important. Now let's see what the question wants us to do. How many gallons of water will the dishwasher use to wash 10 loads of dishes? So now it wants to know, if you're using 10 loads of dishes, how much water is it going to take? So we're looking for gallons of water. So let's set this up here. I'm going to say, here's my gallons of water. Okay, I want to know my gallons, kind of like how we did up here, right? Our Y. We know that for 18 gallons, okay, we're going to use, let's see, 4 loads of dishes. Okay, but what if you need to wash 10 loads of dishes? Well, you're going to solve it just like you did number 1. You're going to cross multiply, so 18 times 10, okay, 180. Then divide by that number that's left over down there. What's 180 divided by 4? 45. So you will need 45 gallons of water to wash 10 loads of dishes. All right, you're going to try number 2 on your own. You're also going to do the back on your own. It's just 2 questions here. You're going to try number 1 and number 2. It's just a check-in, okay? I want you to try your best on those. Don't forget, you are going to put a copy of these notes in your folder that you shared with me. I'm going to be putting those in the grade book. Also, I'm just noticing, I think this is a mistake. I think that is just supposed to be a question mark. That's weird. Hold on. Let me double check on that. Yeah, I think that's just a question mark. Sorry. What is the value of y when x is 2? Okay. Sorry, I don't really know what happened there. Oh, no, I'm sorry. When x is 2.5. They just got kind of close there. Sorry about that. All right. I will see you guys for notes 3.0.